Good morning. Let's start the topic. Current affairs today. Coming to the topics. Okay, this is about the Indian commitment at the Glasgow Climate Summit and its further commitment on climate change before the global community. Fine. So the Glasgow Climate Summit, the COP26, as it was known. What is known as COP26. 9 months after the Prime Minister made a few headlines grabbing promises at the climate change conference Glasgow in 2021, the government converted two of those two official targets. The government has fixed some targets, which would now be part of India's international climate commitment for 2030. India's NDC, National Determined Issues, okay, commitment, National Determined Commitment or NDC as it is called, but we committed individually as NDC, nationally determined commitments have been updated with those two promises, both of which are enhancing of existing target and will be submitted to the UN climate body. The 2015 Paris Agreement, okay, so COP21 was read in Paris in 2015. It was COP21 at Paris. Requires every country to set self-determined climate targets which have to be progressively updated with more ambitious goals every few years. India's national India's own national determined commitments submitted in 2015, where India committed to reduce it by 33 to 35%. Okay, reduction in carbon emission. Okay, from its 2005 level. This okay, that means 33 to 35% of the reduction in carbon emission intensity from the 2005 level. This was the first commitment by India at the Paris Climate Conference. And in 2015, right, at least 40% of the total electricity generation to come from non-fossil fuel to renewable sources. Fine. So 40% of our power generation will be from non-fossil sources. Fine, because fossil power is the major source of power right now. Set 1, 2, 3, temperature को पढ़ता हूँ. Okay, so this is so because we fulfill our energy from fossil fuels like coal and petroleum. So we have planned to ensure that 40% of our electricity generation will be from non-fossil or renewable sources, for which we are emphasizing on the solar power. And at the Paris Climate Conference, we have launched the International Solar Alliance, or ISA, along with France, to promote the use of solar power around the world. The second commitment was an increase in forest cover to create an additional carbon sink of around 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. So that means increasing forest cover in the country So an additional 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon sink will be possible in our own country. So the carbon sink means only forest or tree acts as carbon sink. Increasing forest cover will lead to more absorption of carbon in the atmosphere by the plants. So this will bring cleanliness to the atmosphere. At Glasgow Meet last year, uh, Prime Minister Modi promised to strengthen India's climate commitment. He made 5 promises and called it as the Panchamarit. Okay, or the as in it is called in Hindi Panchamrit. Okay, okay. So 5 principles of the Panchamrit, the nectar that Indians prepare using 5 ingredients, all most of them from the mother cow. So, between what I said actually, so that is right. So, fine. So, two of these are updated version of existing targets, the one that have been made officially put in the updated NDC on 4th August 2022. Okay. India will now reduce its what are the for this India will now reduce its emission nearly intensity by 45% instead of the 30 to 35%. Initially, India told that our carbon emission India reduced from 30 to 35% from its 2005 level. But now India has declared that this will be 45%, not 35%. That means India has taken a higher target from 35 to 45%. Also, it should now ensure that at least 50% of this total electricity generation, not just 40%, would come from renewable sources by 2030. Earlier, at the Paris conference, we have declared that 40% of our energy generation, electricity generation, would be from, will reduce it. Okay, so not just 40%. Okay, the 50% will be from non-fossil or renewable sources. Earlier we declared at Paris that 40% of our electricity will be from renewable sources, and again recently we have hiked it to 50%. 50% of our generation, electricity generation, will be from non-fossil fuel, which has been enhanced from 40 to 50% recently. The forestry target has not been touched because we expanded the increasing forest cover. We are trying and doing it, but we have not added any new thing to the forestry cover. Fine. So India's climate target existing and new. See, target for 2030. Target for first existing what we have this national meat contribution, updated national income contribution 2022, and the progress. So target 2030 is emission intensity reduction, share of non-fossil fuel in installed electricity capacity to reduce, and carbon sink. 35 to 35% from 2005 level was the target in 2015, and in 2022 we have enhanced it to 45% from 2005 level. Progress 20% reduction achieved in 2016 itself, estimated to have reached by 30% by now. So what target we have taken in 2015? So to be achieved by 2030, we are able to achieve by 2022. Okay, up to 30%. By 2016, we have been able to do it by 24%. By 2022, we are able 2022, we are able to reach at 30%. And that's why we have enhanced the target to 45% right now. So share of non-fossil fuel in installed electricity capacity. So earlier we declared it as 40%, but right now enhanced to 50%. And the achievement at present is 41.5% achieved by the end of June this year. So the target was 40%, but we have surpassed it to 41.5%. So we have enhanced the target to 50%. In carbon sink, creation of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of additional sink through afforestation. And same is the target for this, because creating forest takes time, and suddenly enhancing the target in creating forest domain will not be possible on the part of India. But India is trying to enhance its forest cover over the years. Apart from these, at least 500 gigawatt of India's, the other thing that we have achieved, 500 gigawatt of India's installed electricity generation capacity in 2030 would be based on non-fossil fuel sources. 500 gigawatt. India promised that the country would ensure avoided emission of at least 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent between now and 2030. These two promises have not been converted into official target, but they are closely linked with the others, and any progress on official target would get reflected in these goals as well. Fine. Prime Minister also announced a net zero target for India in the year 2070 at the Glasgow summit. So India declared that India will be net zero emission target by 2070 and 50% net zero emission target by 2030. This is what is India has declared at the Glasgow. Fine. So India declared Glasgow that it will reduce its emission by 50%, make it net zero of 50% by 2030, and complete net zero emission level will be achieved by India by the year 2070. That is the target set by India in its commitment at Glasgow Climate Conference held in 2011. Fine. So, but net zero is a long-term target and does not qualify to be included in the nationally determined contribution, which seeks 5 to 10 years climate target from the countries. Right, but net zero emission target is a long-term one by 2070. It is a global target set. Global community agreed that by 2070, countries should try to be net zero carbon emitter. In India's progress, the upward revision, the two climate targets, those relating to reduction in emission intensity and proportion of non-fossil sources in electricity generation, do not come as a surprise. India is on way to achieve its existing target well ahead of the 2030 timeline. As I told that India has taken to reduce by 33-35% by 2030, but we have been able to achieve this much before that. India's emission intensity was 24% lower than in 2005 level in the year 2016 itself. Last year, for which official numbers are available. It is very likely that 33 to 35% reduction target has already been achieved or is very close to being achieved. A further reduction of 10 to 12% from here to meet new target does not appear too challenging. You know, India has taken the target of reducing carbon emission by 33 to 35% by 2030. But much before this deadline of 2030, we are able to achieve it. So this boosts Indian confidence, and right now it has been almost sure that this 33 to 35% target has already been achieved by India. If this target has been achieved, then the enhanced target has been set. Fine. Another 10 to 12% enhancement has been set in carbon emission. Okay, and this higher standard is not that a very big goal to be achieved for India. So from 33 to 35%, it has been increased to 50%. The other target, having at least the confidence of the government that it may be able to facilitate, or it may be able to achieve the share of the renewable energy in total electricity generation to 50%. It's not a very big target for India. Not that a very unrealistic target that the government has taken upon itself, because in a very short time span, due to the popularity of the technology, it has been able to achieve the 40% target much before the set deadline. If this target has been achieved, then achieving slightly or setting slightly higher target is not a very big unrealistic target for the country, which has been well justified by the government, and this has boosted the confidence of the country in emphasizing on this. Okay, what is this Panchamrit as announced by the Prime Minister at the Glasgow Climate Summit in 2021? Promises non-fossil fuel electricity installed capacity to reach 500 gigawatt. Okay, whether it has not been included in the national determined contribution. At least 50% of the total installed electricity generation capacity to come from non-fossil fuel. It has been included. Reduction of 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent from cumulative projected emission between now and 2030. The third declaration. At least 45% of the reduction in emission intensity by 2030. It was earlier 33 to 35%, but as we are able to achieve this target much before the targeted date. So right now we have enhanced it by another 10% from the maximum 35% to 45% right now. Then net zero status by 2030, but 2030 we declared that 50% net zero status by 2030 and 100% net zero emission target by India by 2070. Okay, this is broadly called as the Panchamrit, or the five noble ideas in environmental domain. Assume that the next higher target set by India will be achieved by the country because it is not too big a target. Then coming to the financial and technological support in Glasgow in 2021, that India's enhanced climate commitment are likely to be contingent on the availability of international finance and technology from developed countries. It is difficult for India to achieve its higher target in the absence of such international support. Without much financial and technical support from the international community, it will be really difficult for India to achieve its target, because achieving this target need both finance and technological upgradation, and these two, without the support of the international community, India may not be able to achieve. The updated NDC does talk about the need of low cost international finance and transfer of technology, but does not make achievement of targets contingent on their availability. This is the case in the previous NDC as well. If India will be able to achieve, if India will be able to achieve its enhanced target, so it is possible only with the availability of cheap finance as well as advanced technology from the developed countries. How India plans to step up energy saving game? In order to facilitate the achievement of more ambitious climate change targets and ensure a faster transition to low carbon economy, the government is seeking to strengthen 20-year-old law called the Energy Conservation Act 2001. Fine. So, energy conserved is equal to energy generation. Okay. Conserve means saving energy is equal to generating it. Fine. And we have an act passed in 2001 in this domain. Okay. Which has powered the first phase of India's shift to more energy efficient future. Right now we have the agency called BEE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. And this bureau issue the star marks in electrical products to ensure their energy efficiency. You might have seen the star marks in the electrical gadgets like your refrigerator, air conditioner, micro oven, television, fan, even the LED lights. Okay, they're all measures for energy conservation. We have changed and adopted the new method of energy saving through conservation and enhancing our energy use efficiency of the electrical gadgets. The bill to amend the Energy Innovation Act 2001, which was introduced to Parliament, has two main objectives. What Parliament has introduced the amendment to this Act, and what are the provisions in the Amendment Act? The first, it seeks to make it compulsory for a select group of industrial, commercial, and even residential consumers to use green energy. A prescribed minimum portion of the energy they use must come from renewable or non-fossil fuel sources. As per the amendment introduced the Parliament, so the industrial, commercial, and even residential, big residential consumers will be encouraged to shift to renewable sources. A part of their energy requirement should be from the renewable sources. Second, it should establish domestic carbon market to facilitate trade in carbon credit. What is this? The less fossil fuel based energy one household use, the more will be the carbon credit that will be available to it, which it can rate. Importantly, the amendment bill seek to widen the scope of energy conservation to include large residential building as well. Till now, the energy conservation rules applied mainly to industrial and commercial complexes. But the new bill also want to add the large residential premises under its legislation. Fine. By which large industrial, large commercial, large residential area will also be encouraged to go for non-fossil fuel based energy to fulfill the requirements. In the 2001 law, deemed standards for energy conservation and efficiency to be followed by a select group of industrial and commercial complexes. Efficiency standards are also prescribed for equipment and appliances like air conditioners, fine, were applied for air conditioners or refrigerators and other household gadgets. The law set up a Bureau of Energy Efficiency, as I told, BEE, to promote the use of more efficient process and equipment in order to save energy. The star rating, as I told, on various household appliances and large scale shifted to LED bulbs are some of the successful initiative of BEE that have resulted in massive energy saving over a period of time. You see, earlier we used 100-watt filament bulb in each and every place in your household. But right now we are using the LED bulb of 3, 5, 7, 9 watt maximum in our household, and even 2, 3 megawatt bulbs are giving the light which is equivalent to the 100-watt bulb that was given earlier in the filament bulb, which is consuming more energy but giving less light. But the change in technology from filament bulb to the LED bulb, and in between comes the CFL lamp. So we shifted like this from the filament bulb to the CFL fluorescent lights to LED light emitting diodes. Okay, so there is change, and this LED bulb led to massive energy saving in the domestic consumer. Fine, we all shifted to this, and our gadgets are right now BE star marked. The overall objective has been to improve energy efficiency across sectors so that much power productivity can be obtained from the same amount of energy. Over the year, India's energy intensity, or the amount of energy consumption per unit of GDP, has declined significantly. Fine. There are the new provisions. The amendment bill seek to build upon the progress made so far. For example, just like the standards for appliances and equipment, energy consumption standard would be specified for motor vehicles, ships, and other water vessels, industrial units, and buildings. So right now, buildings are also star rated. In the case of vehicles and water vessels, fuel consumption now would be defined, and just like it is for appliances and equipments, the new provisions would empower the government to prohibit the manufacture or import of any vehicle or water vessel if it does not conform to the prescribed energy standard in the country. This is the long-term goal of the government. So new sustainable building codes are to be defined, which every building a certain threshold of energy consumption, whether industrial, commercial, or residential, would have to adhere to. Every such building would have to ensure that at least a part of its total energy consumption comes from renewable or non-renewable fossil fuel, right, or non-fossil fuel sources. This should help in reducing the proportion of fossil fuel based energy being used in the economy and push the demand for renewable and other non-fossil fuels. What are the carbon markets? The creation of a domestic carbon market is one of the most significant provisions of the proposed amendment bill. Carbon market allow the trade of carbon credits with the overall objective of bringing down emissions. These markets create incentive to reduce emissions. See, this is most important one. The carbon market create incentive to reduce emission or improve energy efficiency. For example, an industrial unit which outperforms the emission standard stands to gain credit. Another unit which is struggling to attain the prescribed standard can buy these credits and show compliance to these standards. The unit that did better on the standard earns money by selling credit, while the units unable to fulfill the operating obligations to buy it and to spend. So how this is being traded right now globally will be traded also domestically among the companies. This is the most innovative features in the new bill. Under the Kyoto Protocol, the predecessors of the Paris Climate Agreement, the Kyoto Protocol was signed, and the Kyoto Protocol fixed the which came into was signed in 1997 and came into operation in 2005. It fixed the emission target only on the developed countries. Okay, so Kyoto is a place in Japan where the climate conference took place, and they fixed that emission. So it was in 1997 and came into place in 2005. So it fixed emission target on developed countries only. Fine. Unlike on the developing country. The protocol has prescribed emission reduction target for a group of developed countries. Other countries did not have such target, but if they did reduce their emission, they could earn carbon credits. These carbon credits could then be sold off to those developed countries which had an obligation to reduce the emission but were unable to follow their standard. Fine. This system functioned well for a few years, but the market collapsed because of the lack of demand for carbon credits. And the world negotiated a new climate treaty in place of the Kyoto Protocol, and the developed countries no longer felt the need to adhere to their target under the Kyoto Protocol. Fine. A similar carbon market is envisaged in the work under the successor Paris Agreement, but its details are still being worked out. Domestic or regional carbon market are already functioning in several places, most notably in Europe, where an emission trading scheme works on similar principle. Industrial units in Europe have prescribed emission standards to adhere to, and they buy and sell credits based on their performance. China too has a domestic carbon market. So we have an international carbon trading system as well as a domestic carbon trading format. The domestic carbon trading is done by the countries. So among the industries, and each industry has a carbon emission limit, and those who are surpassing it are to buy the surplus credit with those who are able to adhere to their carbon emission limit. Fine. So, domestic or regional carbon markets are already functioning in some places, especially in Europe, and this is going to be followed in India as per the new legislation in but the government is right now trying to fix. So, this may be added to the Indian system in future. Fine. A similar scheme for incentivizing energy efficiency has been running in India for over a decade now. This Bureau of Energy Efficiency scheme called PAT, Perform, Achieve and Trade, allow unit to earn efficiency certificate if they outperform the prescribed efficiency standard. The laggards or those are unable to fulfill the follow the targets can buy these certificates to continue operating. So for buying this, so they have to pay. So this allow carbon credit or carbon trading facility, and the agency or the industrial units having carbon credit can trade this and earn some financial benefit from this carbon trading activity. However, the new carbon market that is proposed to be created through this amendment to the Energy Conservation Act would be much wider in scope. Although the details of this carbon market are not yet known, it is likely to be on the lines of the European uh, market, facilitating the buying and selling of the carbon credit. If this is to be promoted properly, then we have to follow the European model where large scale carbon marketing is possible. Okay, and we can do this. So, in cooperation of the in model of the European carbon market, we follow a proper standard for this. Fine. Moving to the next topic. What are the live fire exercises recently conducted by China? So, in a massive show of strength, China began its live fire exercise near Taiwan, launching at least 11 ballistic missiles into the country's coast. A day after the US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan. So China and Taiwan confrontation is being aggravated now, and that has the situation has been further aggravated by the recent visit of the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan amid Chinese reaction to this. Okay, and as a counter reaction to the visit, so USA has launched a massive military exercise. Okay, in the coast of exactly Taiwan in total, right? And this is what is the biggest military exercise being undertaken by China along Taiwan in recent time. Okay, so and this has enhanced the security threat not only in Taiwan but also Japan. As some there is allegation that some missiles fired by China has been it has fallen in the territorial water of Japan and adjoining country with whom the relation of China's relation is not that cordial. Right. This has further enhanced the threat perception not only in Taiwan but also in the neighboring country like Japan. Okay, so Taiwan Defense Ministry announced that multiple Chinese ships and planes had once again crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait, which is under their control but violating their space. The Chinese vessels they have passed this area. This you can say is a sheer violation of the territorial integrity of Taiwan by China. But this is a violation because in the aftermath of the visit of the US House Speaker to Taiwan, so China became very aggressive and has started launching such activity to enhance or to further aggravate the situation in the Taiwan state. Okay. So, Taiwan Defense Ministry announced that multiple Chinese ships and planes have once again crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. This is a violation, but knowingly that this is a violation, the Chinese ships and the fighter planes, so they have trespassed to the area and they have crossed it. So, this is a reactionary step by China in the aftermath of the visit of the US functionary to Taiwan amidst Chinese opposition. This is a show of strength, you can say, which China is doing against Taiwan. Fine. Their exercise is primarily used by military personnel in which live ammunition is used to create training conditions that are that are as close to real combat scenario as possible. This is the live one. That means live ammunitions are being used. Okay. So here they are not dummy. but live ammunitions are being used like it is creating a war-like situation. Normally in the exercises, dummy weapons are used, but in this particular exercise, live weapons are being used by the Chinese military. Live fire exercises are also used by law enforcement and firefighters as a part of field training to train them to act calmly in real life emergency situations in future. During the live fire training, soldiers are placed in simultaneous combat situations and are given the opportunity to use their weapons and equipments like ship, aircraft, tanks, and drones. Such exercises are invaluable in maintaining combat readiness of troops, the cohesiveness of units, and installing confidence in their ability to use their weapons and the equipment correctly. But this creates a very unstable situation in the security concern in the neighborhood, because so the neighborhood threat perception increases. It get increased maximum by such an exercise conducted by a bullish hostile power like China in the neighborhood. It is not only threatening Taiwan, but to some extent, so Japan is also feeling the threat perception by this enhanced Chinese action, which is the reaction, you can say, the reaction of China to the intervention of USA in the Taiwan matter between China and Taiwan. As USA, in the name of democracy, is trying to interfere in their matter where China has its own interest. So China has become very reactive and is taking steps which is considered reactionary. Okay, between July 25th to 29, the US Army resumed its live fire drill in South Korea after a hiatus of 3 years in response to the series of weapon tests conducted by China. Okay, so it is not only China which is doing this, even the American army present in the area, like South Korea, they have also started war games or military exercises. This is only a show off of the strength of the respective sides. Okay, one side, so it is USA, the other side it is China. So they are showing, just making a show of their strength before the global community. Okay, and uh, uh, the deadly Apache helicopter stationed in South Korea are allowed to fire rockets and gone at the Rodriguez Live Fire Complex south of the demilitarized zone that divides North and South Korea. The live fire exercises have been previously cancelled in 2019 after residents living in the vicinity of the area has complained about noise and raised concerned about safety unreported by Reuters. So earlier USA had conducted live exercises in this area, but it has to abandon it because of the concern raised by the civilians living in the area. After North Korea launched 8 short-range ballistic missiles in June 5th, the US and South Korea responded in a tit for tat fashion by firing 8 of their own into the sea. So, in this area, North Korea, South Korea, USA, Taiwan, Japan, China, Japan, all are engaged in some sort of activity, and for the first time, such live weapons are being used by the countries, and this is enhancing the threat perception in the mind of the common people, which is not good for the humanity. So this can be very well guessed from the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, how the community has suffered. If they have learned from this incident in the global community, if humanity has not learned from the devastation that has that has taken place in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, which is not finding a way out since more than 4 months. So, and the tension is again building up in Taiwan, between China, Taiwan, and USA. So man should learn from these and try to save humanity. Fine. Then come the Kayam satellites. Russia will launch a Iranian remote satellite called Kayam into orbit using the Soyuz 21B satellite carrier. The satellite is named after the 11th-12th century Persian polymath Omar Khayyam. This satellite is a remote sensing satellite designed and manufactured at enterprises that are part of the Russia Space Corporation, Roscosmos. The satellite has high imaging accuracy and is capable of filming the Earth's surface in different image spectra. It aims to monitor the country's border, enhance agricultural productivity, and monitor water resources and natural disasters. Remote satellites are the satellite which give information regarding different requirements without coming in physical touch with it, like the resources, water table, underground water, minerals, forest cover, etc. Without being in coming physical touch with the things. So, like we have in India, we have our Indian remote sensing satellites. We have our satellites in the remote sensing series called the IRS, Indian remote sensing satellites. Okay, Rishosat, Catrosat, Cato, okay, Oceansat. They're all iron satellites to be used for specific purpose, being used by the ISRO, our premier space agency. Similarly, this was launched by Russia. The satellite is that of Iran, and Russia has developed it and launched it for Iran at a cost. Then this hormonal cost disease economics theory state that wages rise when there is greater productivity. But as per this theory, it is something different. The increase in wage is not related to a proportionate increase in the caliber of the labors. However, this Baumol cost disease refer to the increase in the wages of the certain laborers, even though their productivity or skill level has not reached commensurate. This happens because there is competition between various industries for the limited supply of labor. So, even if the productivity of the employee has not risen significantly, employers may, in many cases, have no choice but to pay higher wages in order to prevent the movement of laborers to other higher paying industry. It should be noted that labor is often a kind of non-specific resources that can use across various industries. Example, you can say the salary of the sales manager is increased without substantial increase in sale because he has been offered a job in another company at a higher rate. So if the original company not paying that higher rate, he may leave it. So this is the syndrome. Without substantial increase in his caliber, so he is being paid higher because there is a demand for that particular labor in the industry. Although in between there is no substantial increase in his work or quality of work or his efficiency. Fine. This is a very important sim in economy where the labor has to be paid more, although his energy, his efficiency or caliber or his knowledge has not substantially increased. Then comes the World Dairy Summit 2022 held in India after 48 years. India is hosting the World Dairy Summit 2020 in New Delhi. The last World Dairy Summit was organized in 1974 in New Delhi. After 48 years, India is organizing the summit again. Okay, Delhi Summit. We have the Operation Flood. We have the Rashtriya Gokul Mission, Rashtriya Kamdhanu Mission. We have the Govardhan Jodhana. So this cow buffalo. So we have that many programs by the government for this. Okay, it is organized by the International Dairy Federation. Who organized this? Organized by the International Dairy Federation and hosted by India. It is aimed to provide a forum for the industry expert to share knowledge and ideas on how the sector can contribute to nourishing the world with safe and sustainable dairy. Theme of the summit is livelihood and nutrition. Okay, so after a gap 48 years, so India is hosting this summit, the World Dairy Summit. You know, India is housed to the largest number of cattle in the world. India ranked first in milk production, contributing 23% of the global milk production is in India. We are the number one in total cattle population in the world. Uttar Pradesh is the highest milk producing state in India, contributing around 18% to the total milk production, followed by Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, and Gujarat and Punjab. Initially in 1970, Operation Flood was launched. Varghese Kurian is called the father of Indian dairy revolution. So, Varghese Kurian. Okay, he is the father of the dairy revolution. Anand, the Gujarat Anand Dairy Milk Federation, as by him. Okay, so was arguably the most ambitious dairy development program that transformed India into one of the largest milk producer. However, India is yet to gain the rank of major milk exporting nations as much of what we produce is related towards meeting domestic demand. Although we are the largest milk producer, but we are not the exporter because the huge population. We are unable to fulfill our country's demand or a domestic demand. So most of the dairy products generated in India are consumed domestically because we are unable to export it due to a huge population and our own dairy requirement. Fine. Dairy processing and infrastructure development. Dairy Processing and Infrastructure Development Fund scheme aims to provide subsidized loans to at 6.5% to capital stressed milk cooperative for primarily replacing their decade-old chilling and processing plants and addition of value-added products to the plants. So earlier dairy plants milk only, so pasteurizing the milks and selling the milk. But right now, so the plants are being promoted to offer more value addition because value addition can give them more profit and make them more financially viable than mere selling the milk that they are collecting. Fine. So this is the reality of the dairy sector in the country. Then let's see the questions in the long format. But in this, the growth of cities as IT hubs has opened up new avenue of employment, but has also created new problems. So you know, in India, a number of IT hubs have been opened, information technology hubs. So from Bangalore to Hyderabad to Kolkata to Bhubaneswar, there are so many places. So we are able to open IT hubs, and they started promoting so Indian information communication technology revolution, and has in the pandemic when almost all the sectors witness a fall in employment, this IT sector was a major employment generator, and not only that, in the same period they are able to hike their salary being paid to their employees. So when all other sectors are on a salary cutting spree, this IT sector added more manpower to their total manpower base, as well as it is the only sector which have given increase to their employees. Okay. IT sector has been one of the most important sector to help India achieve good growth and provide a venue for employment of rapidly growing engineering graduates every year. The industry continued to be a net employer generator, making it a dominant player in the global outsourcing sector. NASCOM the National Association for Software and Companies and Service Companies. Okay, software and service companies. So confirm that the industry continue to be a net adder and reports that 2.5 to 3 million new jobs will be created by 2025. Probably no sector is untouched by information technology. As a result, the IT industry employs professionals from all other fields which could also be non-technical in nature. The rapid development of technology such as networking, multimedia, and the internet have created totally new job categories where not existed a few years ago. Like that networking, multimedia, internet services were not there few years back. So job in that domain were very much limited. But right now, opening up of these sectors has expanded the opportunity of job in this particular domain. Then problem created urbanization. Due to concentration of the IT company only in the few cities, urban population swell leading to endless traffic jam, overcrowded public transport, etc. The cities are booming with malls, shops, and offices of multinational companies, but completely lack the infrastructure to support this growth, led to the compact growth of central core areas of city and small at outskirts, which are deprived of basic amenities like the water crisis in Bengaluru last year. Psychological issue, extended work timing, competition and common, most importantly, insecurity at work are contributing to an increase in people's stress level. People working as per client timing in foreign country have disturbed life and sleeping patterns and many cases almost no family life because so these IT company they cater to the foreign clients, so we have to acquaint ourselves with the requirement of the client staying abroad. So as you know, so there is a time gap between there and ours. So if we are to provide service to them, then it must be when it is our time to sleep. Our time to sleep is devoted by disturbing our schedule to provide service to a foreign client, and this affect the Indian family bond. You see the number of divorces in the IT sector employees. Neglect to all other traditional disciplines of education that stood as backbone of country's development. So IT sector development has neglected almost all other sectors in our economy because so we think that only this sector has a big potentiality and none else. The application of computer in many other fields like natural resource development, utilization of because the situations were beyond our control. Okay, providing job to foreign client and thereby getting employment is always useful because we don't know, we can predict what is going to be their conditions in future. So migration similarly, this also lead to increase in migration, demand for domestic labor on rise. However, these problems have been faced not just by the IT sector but by all the high growth sector of late, and they have occurred due to improper urban planning rather than the sector itself. There need to be a transformation in urban governance by making India's municipal administration politically strong. Also, cities need to implement plans for service delivery, including routine maintenance, to prevent the gradual degradation of the assets. Similarly, we need to create planned cities with proper infrastructure and promote the growth of such sector there. For example, the recent development of Gift City in Gujarat for financial sector in Gujarat is a correct lines. We need more such specialized cities which can be developed using technology with the other facility and thereby so facilitating more and more job creation which will be sustainable without much impact on the people, the climate, and also on the social system that was strong in our country. Let's see some MCQs. Consider the following statement with reference to the World Dairy Summit 2022. Okay, so India is going to host the Dairy Summit in 2022. Did the first of its kind summit to be hosted in India? No. You know that India hosted similar summit in 1974 earlier. Okay, it is organized by the International Dairy Federation. The second one is correct, but the first one is wrong. So the right answer is only two. Because the first one that India is not hosting for the first time. Earlier once in 1974, India also hosted a similar summit. So it was hosted by India in 1974 also. So this is wrong. So only two is the right answer. Fine. Then moving further, So two, India ranked fast in milk production globally, followed by China. Not by China, it is by USA. Okay, India is the number one, but India is followed not by China but by USA. India's export of milk, in case of export of milk, China ranked first followed by USA. No, first is New Zealand, followed by USA. So both are incorrect. So answer will be D. Fine. Then option number three, which the following state is top in the rank of milk production in India? It is Uttar Pradesh. So it is A the right answer. Which of the following statement is correct regarding Operation Flood? So it is the dairy development program which led to white revolution in India, and Varghese Kurian is the mastermind behind this that led to the emergence of the Amul brand of the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Federation in India, which was a successful cooperative venture in the dairy sector. Okay, and Varghese Kurian is called as the milkman of India. Then question number 5. Which of the following statement is correct regarding Bamul's cause disease recently seen in news? So as it is, increase in the wages of certain we have discussed this while discussing increase in the wages of certain labor even though their productivity or skill level has not risen commensurately because demand for that labor has increased that led to an increase in their wage, but there is no such commensurate enhancement in their skill or in their productivity level, but because demand for them has increased like the sales manager, so the marketing manager, because of that their salary has been increased, but there is no commensurate increase in their skill or level of productivity. Consider the following statement regard to International Dairy Federation. It is a specialized UN agency. No, UN agency is not an agency. And headquartered at Beijing. No, headquartered is at Brussels in Belgium. So it is not an UN agency. So it is not an no, and the headquarters is in Brussels in Belgium. So neither are the correct answer. None is correct. A remote sensing satellite known as Khayyam recently mentioned in news is belonged to. It was launched by Russia, but it is an Iranian satellite. This Iranian satellite was launched by Russia. Okay, by Roscosmos, the Russian space agency. Consider the following statement with reference to the live fire exercise recently conducted by China. This is the type of exercise live ammunition is used to create training conditions that are also close to real combat scenario because live weapons are used. So the first time China conducts an exercise, no, it was conducted earlier by China, by USA, etc. So only one is the right answer. Then Taiwan Strait is in news because of China-Taiwan tension. Which of the following is connected by this strait? So South China Sea with East China Sea is connected by the Taiwan Strait. South China Sea is a dispute between China and so many countries like Vietnam, and East China Sea is a dispute between China and Japan. And this Taiwan Strait connects these two areas over which China is trying to spread its hegemony. Fine. So that's why it is in news. Fine. Then coming to the next question, that is the question number 10. Which of the following date is observed as Hiroshima Day? The 6th August is observed as the Hiroshima Day because in this on this date in 1945, okay, the America used its atomic bomb, the little boy, on Hiroshima, and the 3 days after, 9th of August, it used on Nagasaki. That's the fact man, and that has changed the course of the Second World War, and human being was exposed to the devastating or horrific impact of atomic bomb on civilization. Then regarding carbon credit, which of the following statement is not correct? Carbon credit system was ratified in conjunction with the Kyoto Protocol. No, so it was in the Paris Climate Agreement. Then carbon credit are awarded to country or group that have reduced greenhouse gas below their emission quota. But no, it is those who have the surplus of this carbon credit are traded as price fixed from time to time by the. It is also right. Then, so the carbon credit comes in the Kyoto Protocol. It is right. Carbon credit are awarded to country with group that have reduced the carbon emission. That is from the set target. Right. The goal of the carbon credit system is to limit the increase of carbon dioxide emission. It is the long-term goal. Carbon credit are traded at a price fixed from time by the United Nations Environment Program. No, the carbon credit, the amount, the price is fixed by the government of the country. So D is the incorrect one. In the context of CO2 emission and global warming, what is the name of a market-driven device under the UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, that allow developing countries to get fund incentive from the developed countries to adopt better technology that reduce greenhouse emission? It was the Clean Development Mechanism, CDM, as it is called popularly. The concept of carbon credit originated from the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol 1997, which came into operation in 2005, so fixed the carbon credit and the carbon trading facility. Okay, Prime Minister has announced a net zero target for India by 2070, but 50% to be achieved by 2030. India will be a net zero carbon emitter as declared by the Prime Minister at the Glasgow Climate Talk by 2070. But India has a target to reduce it by 50% or to be 50% net zero emitter by 2035. Consider the following statement about the national determined contribution NDC and choose the correct statement. Okay. So, national determined contribution is conceptualized at the Paris Climate Agreement or COP21 in 2015. Nations are requested to submit their plans of NDC every 5 years thereafter, regardless of their respective implementation time frames. Recently, India updated its NDC, which is share of non-fossil fuel in installed electricity capacity from 40% to 50%. All are correct. Jidda Bass is a military exercise held between India with which country? It was with USA. Okay. Then Rakhi Gari, which is a heritage site recently tagged of national importance, was located in Haryana. Okay. Then 18, it is constitutional principle one nation, one country, two system operates in Hong Kong and also operate in Macau. But China is putting claim to both. All the three are disputed with China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau. But one country, two system. Okay. So operates in Hong Kong and Macau. Whereas in Taiwan, with the more of the one China policy. Okay, the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is a statutory body which was established under the Energy Conservation Act 2001, right? It regulates the renewable energy certificate. No, it gives energy efficiency certificates, not renewable energy. The gadgets or the buildings which are energy efficient. The BEE star mark is given by the Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So 2 is incorrect. PAT, perform, achieve and trade is an initiative of it. Yes, it is right. Then 20, principle of one China policy of people to China is related to Taiwan. And the recent dispute between China and Taiwan is because of this. Because in the name of democracy, promoting and protecting democracy, as USA is intervening in China, China is intervening in Taiwan. So in the name of democracy, America started showing support to Taiwan, and that led to the standoff between China and Taiwan, that has enhanced the threat perception and security concern in the subcontinent. Fine. So this much of information have been shared today. Hope it's very useful. Keep on watching for such further news every day at this particular time. Thank you.